Good morning, y'all. Welcome to IT Live, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Texas Homer, Eric Nalleen, Coach Dub, Monday morning show. Where's Roaster? Yeah, exactly. We need him there. So we're going to talk today. We're going to talk about some up and comers, which I thought was an interesting article. And then Eric dropped another one this morning. Is the offense better or worse? Is my YouTubeified language of it, but it's just really where did we regress or improve based on the roster? Let us begin with up and comers, though. Eric, let me pull this up.
Man, I could have added a whole lot more to that list than just those. I think I just focused on 3 on Friday morning.
Yeah. So let's start with Jordan Washington. This is an exciting one because we're going to find out the tight end room we're a little bit nervous about depth-wise. But we just keep hearing Jordan Washington, and you've been very consistent. 50 catch guy. 50. I mean, every article you're calling your shot there. Specifically 50 catches too. So what's up with Jordan Washington?
Yeah, 50 on the dot. It's not going to be 51, and it better not be 49. Yeah, I looked at Source called him huge. He's a really good receiver for somebody so big. So that, I already knew he's big. I didn't know that, when college sources are calling a guy big, that means he's actually big. So, 6'4", 250 is about the minimum for him, we're guessing. But he's always been a natural receiver. That's how he kind of came on Texas's radar out of Langham Creek. But he also has the physical want to. Buddy of mine saw him play a couple times his senior year, and he said he came away as impressed with how physical he can be as he was as a receiver. So just need to get more time in the developmental. There's a lot of stuff to learn about blocking, nuance, how to use your body, your length advantages, that sort of thing. But he's got all the natural stuff, and I'm excited to see him. Like I wrote this morning on that are they better or worse topic. They've been dangerously thin at tight end. They've gotten away with it. They weren't all that thin 2 years ago with Jatavian. They weren't all that deep 2 years ago with Jatavian. They weren't very deep last year either. And this year they're even less. I do expect them to go to the portal though.
Coach, how are you feeling about Jordan Washington, especially watching him in high school?
Man, I love watching this game for a while. I think, like Eric said, he's natural, and that's the thing that sticks out to me. Natural pass catcher. I think in Sark's offense, you can scheme him open, but I think he can get open himself too, right? I think he'll learn how to position himself, sit down in the windows, especially when you got the OTB over the ball routes. I think he can use like some basketball skills, kind of box out guys because he has a bigger body. 50 catches, man, that'll be impressive. If he gets 50 catches, that means the offense is humming. That means everybody else is eating too. So, but I like Jordan Washington, what he can be as a receiver.
That Jatavian Sanders breakout year really was an eye-opener, and they've had a 50-catch guy ever since. So I think he's going to continue it. But, Jatavian came out of nowhere. Nowhere. He's very highly rated coming out of high school, but then didn't do anything his freshman year other than play on special teams. We mentioned he was a much bigger project than I think anybody ever realized. And then we started hearing a whole lot of things about him winter off season going into his second year of the program when he blew up. We're kind of hearing those same things about Jordan. And he's really had those high expectations since he got there, even though he wasn't as highly rated as Jatavian. So the expectations are there, the ability's there, and now the playing time is going to be there.
Yeah, I'm excited. Yeah, he's one of my most intriguing players that are on the roster right now. And then the important thing, like you said, can he be a well-rounded tight end? And you said that this is interesting. IT expects the staff to search high and low for a tight end portal window. So there's a little bit of urgency there, it seems.
Yeah, well, I think that it's also they might be looking low just because that's where Jason McKendo has found guys in the past. He's being at Oklahoma State, he found a lot of underrated junkyard dogs. He used former walk-ons. He used former defensive ends at tight end. Braden Cassidy was pretty good for him. So I think that they'll probably think outside of the box, but I could see them looking at lower classifications. Obviously it won't be a SEC to SEC transfer during the spring window. I guess unless they're a graduate. So I think they are going to have to get a little creative. They obviously went after the stud Max Clare out of Purdue. He went with Ohio State, which that would have been awesome. That guy was ready-made. He looks like Colston Loveland to me. Absolute stud. But they're as long as they're looking, there's always a chance that they uncover somebody really good. But they might just need a guy that's a good complementary piece to Washington, because I don't think they're going to find anybody as talented as Washington.
Yeah, McKindu, find me an FCS fifth-year guy that just likes to pop helmets with people. And
it could be a fullback. Good. Yeah, it could be a fullback. Like what OU they're doing with Jared Kanik over there. Just an Andrew Beck type. We would take an Andrew Beck in a heartbeat. I think fans probably
Yeah, right.
appreciate him a little bit more now in the NFL than when he was at Texas. But man, we just find a guy that'll mix it up and has more versatility to the room.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I'm also want to see. It'll be interesting with Arch how much he likes the tight end. Like Ewers really liked Helm, right? Like I want to see quarterbacks will kind of, you got to see if they're like an outside receiver guy, a slot guy, a tight end guy. I want to see if Arch is super reliant on that position. Couple of DB notes. Good news. Cade Phillips, the stoic in photos, but actually rather happy guy outside of it. We didn't hear much about him early, Eric says, but now we're starting to hear about him, which is great because hell of an athlete. I think even one of your quotes is hell of an athlete.
Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about the other DBs. McCade, we've been hearing he's a beast in the gym, like really explosive athlete in the gym, which you expect. He's a track and field guy. But yeah, once they started 7-on-7, his length and speed and athleticism were catching everybody's attention. When the ball's in the air, he's played some wide receiver in the past. He knows what to do when the ball's in the air. He's very fluid, explosive, and long. I mean, you can see why he's you can see why he somehow had him as a 5-star. I couldn't quite put him as a 5-star just because I think most 5-stars have a really, really high floor. To me, a 5-star is a guy that's guaranteed to go to the NFL as long as he doesn't get hurt and puts forth just moderate effort. Now, I think if Cade puts forward effort, he's probably going to be in the NFL. But I want to see a little bit more from him from a floor standpoint. But the guy's got an enormous ceiling. We call these up and comers because they are, but I don't know what to expect from him this season because, like I mentioned, they've got they got 4 guys that have been got a lot of time under tension. Malik Muhammad's going to start. You got Warren Roberson, Jalen Gilbo, and Kobe Black. Kobe Black is looking quicker. We've heard that. That's good. We knew that they were making a concerted effort to keep him leaner. Didn't want him to grow into a safety, which his body could easily do. So they're making a concerted effort to keep him lighter and quicker, and that's bearing fruit. But Cade's got a lot of guys in his body, but things are going to clear up relatively quickly for him, probably after the season. My sources think Gilbo's going to win that job opposite Muhammad. It's still very early, but that's just another little nugget there.
How does Cade feel? It's a bummer, right? You come to school and then both of the secondary coaches leave. It's part of the game. They know that, but it's like, how's Cade feeling with that switch happening as soon as he steps on campus?
Yeah, I mean, he's, I think the one thing that, what we've heard about him is that he really loves just the overall atmosphere. The expectations are extremely high. It's, there's plenty of positivity, but there's also, it's well structured. Everything is competitive. He feels like he's in the right environment, picked the right spot. And that's, that environment's going to be there whether or not a DB coach or a position coach leaves or the new ones come in. That's set the tone. That tone is set by Stark. The coordinator is Torrey Becton. So that's permanently in place, which he loves. But, Mark Orfe is receiving a lot of rave reviews. They like his enthusiasm. Of course, that's why they bring in a 37-year-old DB coach. He's still relatively young.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew when I was 37, I could talk to recruits better than I can now. Now at my advanced age, I start looking for uncles and dads and coaches and trainers and all that. But when you're 37, you're still relatively young, and he's got a lot of that enthusiasm. He's got a younger energy about him. Terry Joseph, to his credit, was able to keep that young energy in his late 40s, early 50s, and somehow Dwayne Akina still has it at 68. But everybody we talked to is really excited about the new coaches. They hated seeing the previous guys leave. It was tough for some of them, but they understand that that's part of being in the real world. When they have real jobs, they're going to lose bosses that they loved or have to work with a boss that they might not care for. Sometimes you guys might have some of that going on too, but they're embracing the new look defensive back room for sure.
When you guys, like if a recruit, you guys talk to a ton of recruits and have for years. When recruits are asking you like, hey, what do I really need to look for? What is your pitch like? Hey man, don't hyper fixate on your position coach. Like it's a good thing, but you need to focus on the overall structure. What are you telling recruits when they ask you like, hey, what do I actually need to look for here? Coach, let's go.
I tell kids, talk to the players. Don't talk to the starters either. Talk to the people that's competing, right? Second string, third string guys, because they'll tell you the actual real what's going on, right? Yeah, I'm getting my chance. I'm getting a chance to compete. I just got to work my way up the depth chart, right? Those are the guys you really talk to and find the real information from. Talk to the trainers. How often are guys in the training room with hurt recovery time? What does that look like? Because you can talk to the coaches. Coaches, everybody else can sell you on everything, but talk to people that you're going to be in a room with every single day. And a lot of kids now are asking, hey, what's the culture like there? I hear Texas is a family atmosphere. Is it really like that, right? People want to go. They want to find out. So a lot of these recruits, when they get a chance to go visit this spring and then for official visits this summer, they're going to see the real deal. Like, hey, Texas has a great culture. It's a great fit. It's competitive. It's somewhere you really want to be. I think that's going to sell more than anything.
Yeah, I tell them to pick a school they'd be happy at if they didn't play football. If you're just going to be a college kid and go study for the long term, where would you go? Where would you want to be? Because you got to spend 4 years there. But as Rose says here, scheme and fit is huge. Track record, that coach's track record of putting players in the NFL. I wouldn't look at the school. A lot of people said, "Oh, Texas doesn't put anybody in the NFL." That was a knock when Sark got there. Well, what the hell does that have to do with Sark? That has nothing to do
none
with
of the same people.
Right. Yeah. The buildings don't develop players, coaches
Right.
do. And so the Texas coaching staff is doing what they've always done, put a lot of guys in the NFL. So you want to look at track record at their specific position, because this is not an opportunity you can afford to gamble. It can mean the difference between millions and maybe life in the real world, which is not always as fun. So yeah, there's just a lot of different ways to look at it. If you're a wide receiver, it's going to be pretty obvious that the scheme is going to do a lot of heavy lifting, especially if you've got Arch Manning there, or just you've got a pipeline of quarterbacks coming in. A lot of this is really it's simple math. If you're looking at Texas right now, 14 guys at the NFL Combine. What was it? 11 guys got drafted last year. I think the track record that Sark has already put in place at Texas kind of does a lot of the heavy lifting.
And it's not just
Definitely.
players getting drafted, it's where they're getting drafted. We have 3 first-round mocks, and one of them was not even the quarterback, which is what we thought 2 years ago he was going to be a shoe. So it's like, that's what's even crazier too. So,
yeah, and look at all the 3 and dones too.
Yeah.
They're not putting in 50-year guys. These guys have been on their 3rd year and they're gone to the NFL. A lot of them.
Yeah. And then Jelani McDonald singled out for his playmaking. And this is what I like to hear. Eric, first-round talent if he puts it all together. Do you think he's faster than Ryan Watts? Me and Ian were arguing about it like 2 weeks ago, but I didn't know.
Yeah, what did Watts ran a good 40, right?
He did.
That's what we were 4.4 something, right?
Yeah, that's why we were arguing, because he was like his combine numbers.
Yeah, I think Watts is going to be a step faster in that way. When we hear about McDonald speed, we hear like he's kind of average in the safety room, which is shocking because his play speed is insane, but he's extremely fluid in all different directions. So like his football, it's kind of like Leonga Lafau. They were like, we're not sure how Leonga would test in a 40, but he runs in every direction. He runs the same speed.
It's the sum of his parts.
Yeah. And so, I was surprised to hear that, Jelani's, probably safety room average. But then when you watch him on the field, he's, it looks like it takes him 5 steps to get from one side of the field.
That's why it's weird with like Watts and stuff. I'm like, because on the screen he just flashes, dude. So it's just like, but I think it's what you're saying is right. He's doing everything at an above average level, and it just results in this kind of elite looking play.
When I ask about a lot of guys' speed lately, what I've been hearing, he's fast for Texas. He's a Texas player, so we're all fast. They're all fast. 21, I think. Jordan Johnson Robel, I heard, ran a 21.5 miles per hour this past week, and so that's pretty fast for a safety. We start talking about guys being fast when they're 22 miles an hour. So 21.5 is what I've heard about. Taff and McDonald and all those guys are right around in the same ballpark.
Yeah, but like I said, first-round talent for Jelani.
Playmaker, man. I mean, it doesn't matter. Like, everybody can test well in the 40. But a lot of guys run fast 40 times, can't produce on the field either, right? But Jelani's just a different type of kid, man. It doesn't matter about the 40 time. He makes plays consistently. He's the type of guy that you would see probably go play for like Patriots under Bill Belichick back in the day. He didn't test very well, but he's just a playmaker, and he plays 10 years in the league because he just makes plays consistently.
I think he's still going to test pretty damn well, but we'll see. It's surprising to not hear that he's like, one of the 2 or 3 fastest guys in the secondary.
I love the eval on Jelani too. Like, just from his interviews when he was younger, man, that kid has supreme confidence. He has like quarterback level confidence, and it's great. All right, guys, before we keep going, let's hear from Academy Sports and Outdoors.
Days like this, the anticipation's half the fun. The call to adventure. Possibilities in every direction.
Look at that.
The stories you'll bring back, even the true ones. And already, you can't wait until next time. From first catch to biggest catch of the season, this is where it starts. Academy Sports and Outdoors. Have fun out there.
We're almost there, man. In DFW, the weather gets nice for like 45 minutes, and then the next day it's cold. I don't know what's going on, dude, but we're almost there.
Like
to that
Saturday.
I've got a hard and fast rule anytime I go to DFW to take a jacket no matter what, because I've been tricked leaving Houston so many times. I just,
Dude, we got up to like 85. Then we had this like the strange dust storm that came like a couple days after Austin's dust storm and blotted out the sun. And then this morning it's like 40 something. I'm like, what is going on, man? All right. True freshman expectations. Oh, I like this.
Ooh-wee.
So we're talking offensive line. We're talking Nick Brooks, baby. Georgia, big dog. What's the latest on him?
I always like it when these guys get on campus, because a guy like Nick Brooks, I didn't really know all that well in the process. He was from Iowa, moved to Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Early on, we didn't really know what to think of Texas's chances. Iowa was after him. Georgia was after him. I know he flirted with USC for a while. They prioritized them. That's when you really start to pay attention, when you figure out it kind of goes like back to Caleb Chester, right? These guys are not the most talked about recruits, but when you see how hard the staff is after him, it tells you a lot more than, that fact pattern to me means more than my stupid opinion. So I didn't know what to think of Brooks until the staff really started focusing on him. And now I'm really getting intrigued by him. He's, I think I saw a picture of him on Instagram with him, verifying basically what we're saying here, that he's leaned up quite a bit. He's getting a lot quicker, but really showing a maturity about him, latching on to the older guys, falling right in line, doing what he's supposed to do. The results we're seeing already, we're hearing about him quite a bit. We're hearing from a lot of different people too. So he's going to start at Texas. He's going to start maybe at left tackle, maybe at right tackle. We've heard more about Nick Brooks in 2 months than I think I've heard about Brandon Baker in a year.
Wow. Left tackle. I would not have thought that. That's cool. And then another name I was surprised to hear, Jordan Coleman, with some.
Well, I mean, that's just me saying that, a lot of people said Texas didn't take any tackles in the class last year, and that would be a dereliction of duty for Kyle Flood. You have to take tackles. They're harder to find than guards. And so I always looked at Coleman with this, overall body quickness and foot quickness and size. That guy looks like he could play tackle to me. But again, it all matters. He's not on campus yet. So if he comes in with the mindset that that Nick has, or Trevor Gooseby, then you start saying, okay, this guy's going to play at Texas because he has a lot of things you can't teach. But Coach, Coleman a lot better than me. Doesn't he play tackle?
Yeah, I think he can play tackle. Look, he has some flexibility. He's actually quicker than most people give him credit for.
Yeah.
I know for a fact the person he trains with is going to have him ready. He's putting in work each and every day to try to get better. He wants to make sure when he shows up at Texas, he's prepared to play guard or tackle, but I think he has the ability to play tackle. You go back and look at some of his film, like I know they're moving around, but sometimes he even lined up at tight end or H-back, so it shows that he can move, right? And so and be the lead blocker and get out on screens and do everything that you would ask a tackle to do. So I think he can play tackle. Like you said, he might not have that ideal size or elite size to say 6'5", 6'6" guy, but I think he can play tackle easily.
Is the third brother going to walk on?
Yeah, he's a PWO. Yeah, he plays defensive line. So yeah,
okay, he's preferred walk on.
Yeah.
How tall is Jordan?
I'll give Jordan maybe 6'4", 6'4.5".
Okay, all right.
Especially with the afro, maybe give him a little extra half an inch.
Well, if he doesn't play tackle, he's going to be a really athletic guard.
Yeah.
All right. Did we get better or did we get worse? Theoretically. And then right now the players are on spring break, right?
Yeah. Spring break. They had their last workout on Friday. They check back in a week from today, and then first practice is next Tuesday.
Cool.
Yes.
Almost time to get some real spring ball coverage, man. That's a fun
Cannot
time.
wait.
Yeah, it's awesome, man. All right. We're going to look at the quarterback room first. We have gone from Quinn Ewers to Arch Manning. If anyone was not aware, Eric has labeled this an improvement.
Yep, pocket presence. One of the things that Ewers had going for him going into last year was he didn't turn the ball over a lot. And then he had 12 picks last year, which was too many, especially given that he missed some time. And so, he loses that advantage over Arch. But Arch's biggest advantage is playmaking, and that's, and also just not self-sacking. Ewers found the ground too easily at times. playmaking. We're gonna see him use his legs more, so you can throw the deep ball with more consistency. So I actually think that I think it's an improvement. We'll see improved quarterback play next year over this year.
Coach,
I don't agree with that take. I think Manning just can improvise. He can do a lot more. We'll see how he, progresses. His check down ball is still a deep ball and things like that. But I think overall, man, I think Manning can just probably make more plays with his feet. Pre-reads and the whole nine. I think he'll just be a different type of player. I mean, some plays is not in the playbook. You know what I mean? Like, it's not drawn up. He's just going to make plays happen.
It's also, you can keep him on schedule with RPOs too. We saw a lot of RPOs lead to interceptions this past year with a lower release point. I don't think we'll see that with Arch. He's got a lightning quick release. That was part of the evaluation in high school. They loved him for RPOs. We're going to see him move the pocket, bootlegs, that sort of thing. He just threatens the whole field with his legs and his arm.
The big key for Arch that we'll see year one, we know he'll go for the deep ball. He would chase that a little bit, particularly in the Georgia game. If Arch can start getting to that second read this year too, he's going to be very deadly, man. Well, that's going to be the biggest trick.
Yeah, if you can get to the play action progression passing game, hopefully that. And I think that Arch. We'll talk about the offensive line in a minute. I think that Arch. I think what they want to do with Arch mends well with what they can do with the offensive line, at least in theory.
Cool. Yeah, I think there will be an improvement, and I think Eric made the point. We kind of in our minds think of Ewers as look, there was less upside there, but he protected the ball, so there was a trade-off. That trade-off didn't exist last year. It was that we didn't have a lot of upside, and we were turning it over. So, and Eric's warned us several times that Arch may have early struggles. That's journalist speak for he's going to throw picks. But he says here that he won't throw 12 interceptions. So I think we have this kind of mindset of that he's going to be worse than Quinn in that regard, but he's really not. So it's that's the interesting part to seeing what Arch can do. So there might be a couple head scratchers, but there's also going to be that play where he dumps it off to Silas, where he's running towards the goal line, that kind of stuff, man, running for 50 yards. So you might get frustrated a couple times, but Quinn would frustrate you too. So I think I agree here. This is an improved room.
Did you guys talk to that? Did you guys talk about that Arch throw on Friday? I don't know if you guys know this, but I recorded one, but I was in Port Aransas and the Wi-Fi was terrible, so the fellas had to step in for me.
Yeah, they talked about the out that you said that everybody was like, ooh.
Yeah, so this kind of ties into Elijah Perez's comment here. I'm sorry, that's Norman Roberts. Hey, guys, I've heard how strong Ewers' arm was, but Arch is the one who connected on the deep ball in stride. Deep balls aren't really indicative of arm strength. That's more about timing, anticipating the guy getting open. The one that we're talking about, and I do think that Arch does have a good arm strength. That was the question about him his junior year, and then his senior year in high school, you could see noticeable arm strength improvement. He's a big, strong guy. But he threw a deep out the other day between two defenders that had everybody stopping and pausing and going, what the hell did we just see? Arch has plenty of arm strength. Arch is a very powerful and surprisingly athletic guy. He's going to be able to make all the throws. But deep balls aren't necessarily the best indicator of a strong arm. Joe Montana hit Jerry Rice deep down the field 1 million times.
True.
Yeah. Arch just being a bigger dude is going to help a lot. Quinn just couldn't hold up. And then how many drafted receivers did Quinn play with? He played with a lot. But Arch will get a lot too here.
Yeah.
Arch is going to play with a number of first of all, like I said, they're going to get a guy out of the portal. If they get the guy that I think it's going to be, he'll be in the NFL. You have DeAndre will go pro after this year, I bet. And Ryan Wingo is going to be a very, very obvious pro by about the second week of the season this year. He's just going to have to play another year at Texas. So, and then you got the young guys too. We don't know what to expect of Aaron Butler. Aaron Butler sounds like a pro to me. Parker Livingstone could develop into that. And then you got Jamie French, Khalid Lockett, Dalen McCutcheon. So Arch is going to play with plenty of pros.
Yep.
Yeah.
Arch is hard to sack, slide, run out of bounds, throw it away.
Yeah, he's strong. He's got great feet, balanced, athletic. I'm telling you, the guy, it's like tackling a tight end. It's not a normal quarterback. It's like tackling a tight end.
Who did he shrug? Was it the A&M game where someone tried to tackle? He just
yeah.
I was like, we haven't seen that. I was so excited to see that, dude.
Just bounce off. You look at his lower body, man. It's like he has this huge, thick lower body, right? It's like, oh my God.
They do those step ups, with weight on their back. He has 315 on his back, and they're doing step ups for just to give you idea of his leg strength. And that's something that Becton pushes all the other guys. Look what Arch is doing. Like, oh man, quarterback doing that.
Yeah, you can't let the pretty boy quarterback doing 350. What are y'all doing? All right, running back. Jaden Blue is the only out heading to the NFL. And then we return Gibson, Baxter, Trey, and Christian. Christian looks like he's ahead of schedule on his rehab, which is great. And then, I mean, I don't know anyone who's not super excited for Christian Clark, his upside. And even in high school, man, he moves. He's not Bijan. He moves like Bijan, though. He moves like him. And I guess the Arizona guys just kind of were like, that's how we're going to do it. And then Baxter returning from injury, too. So this room is improved, even without some type of spring addition, just naturally because we have two of these guys back. So it's kind of an auto improve. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, Clark. I hated that Clark was from Arizona because when you said that he moves kind of like Bijan, everybody's like, "Oh, that's just a lazy comp," because Arizona's produced 2 running backs in the last century, and both ended up at Texas.
Yeah,
he's the most dynamic guy in the room. We said that before he got hurt. He's the guy that can make something out of nothing out of the backfield. So I'm excited he's not going to be full contact, but he's going to be full go otherwise after getting cleared a couple weeks ago. So that's a huge development for me. Now, I hated that he missed last year because to me, he was going to take those freshman lumps like Jared Gibson did. Yeah. Clark was even more raw than Gibson coming in. So he might take a little bit of time to round into form, but luckily he'll have a good portion of the spring. Baxter, everything that we hear, they expect Baxter back healthy, and that's demonstrated by their actions. And, we're not hearing anything about them taking a portal running back, even though I do kind of still want to wait and see on that. Trey Wisner's back, workhorse. That guy was massive for the program in November when they needed him.
He was.
It's 60 carries in back-to-back weeks. Was that Kentucky and A&M? Just a stud in every regard. And then, Jared Gibson, everybody expects him to take that next step. He had his freshman frustrations, but the upside is there. They love him. They think he can be a lead back. So there's really, you look at that. I think Trey Wisner is the least likely lead back out of that group. Well, maybe third because Christian Clark might need some time to develop. But if Baxter comes back healthy, you're looking at a much different running back room than we saw last year. This is a significantly improved room. Now, it might lose some of the home run ability that Jaden Blue had, but we didn't see a lot of that last year outside of Clemson and a couple other sporadic carries. So Christian Clark does give that room some playmaking and home run hitting ability.
Yeah, I thought Jaden started to show up towards the end of the year, but remember the beginning of the year was like, ooh, what's going on?
Didn't know what to expect.
What's the latest on Blue? What's his draft order? Do we know?
Somebody said like he's up around the 3rd round or 4th round.
Oh, wow, good for him, dude.
Yeah, I don't really see it that way, but if in the right scheme, and if you know what you're going to do with him, you have a plan. You don't expect him to be a volume back, but you're going to use his hands as much as his legs. I could see it. So 3rd or 4th round. I don't know. I probably wouldn't take him that early, but that speed is going to be alluring.
Yeah, it matters.
Everybody loves speed.
Wide receiver improved, and I think a lot of people would be shocked by this, but if you read Eric's logic, we'll get it. So we lose Matthew Golden. Now, remember, if we would have known Matthew Golden was Matthew Golden from game 1 and utilized him like a first rounder, that would have been a different thing. We kind of had to figure out who Golden was, so we didn't get a full year of him. And that's because we thought, frankly, that it was going to be Isaiah Bond as the true number 1. Bond gets hurt and then just deals with this cyclical injury bug for the rest of the year and doesn't get a ton of reps. And then Silas Bolden comes in, fan favorite, but just we can never figure out how to really utilize him besides for adding a ton of excitement to punts. But we're getting back Ryan Wingo, who everyone thinks is early round NFL, DeAndre Moore, who keeps getting buzz, Parker Livingstone, Eric's kind of gone through this, Butler, who I like, French, Lockett, McCutcheon. These are young guys, so we haven't seen them pan out yet. But 2-3 years from now, I think we'll be looking back really fondly at this group of receivers. What do you think, Eric?
Yeah, they're young guys, but we're not just going by speculation here. We're going by what the word is behind the scenes, guys that are watching them work every day, seeing them move every day, seeing them catch passes now with 7-on-7. So I would call them these are leading indicators. I have a very good feeling about Dalen McCutcheon being a very good wide receiver at minimum. The excitement around Aaron Butler is it's I wouldn't say it wasn't like it was with Worthy or even Isaiah Nair before he got hurt, but there's a lot of excitement around Butler to the point I think he's going to be drafted sounds like he's going to be drafted relatively high based on what we're hearing. Great hands, great speed, great route running. I mean, what else do you need other than a little bit of time getting on the same page with the quarterback and understanding what defenses are doing?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm very bullish on this room. I think DeAndre Moore, we're going to see the best out of him. We've always talked about him and Arch having a connection going back to their true freshman years when they got a lot of reps down there on third team. And you're right. They try to force feed Bond as the number one. They went to Matthew Golden early in the season when they needed touchdowns. So maybe that should have told them something. And then Bolden, I'm going to miss Bolden. Somebody had the funniest comment about him. They said, because Bolden, after he left, he had like a departing video. And it was, all these plays. And somebody said, is it me, or was that just every play he was ever on the field?
Yeah.
Because it seems like every time he touched the ball, something good happened.
Yeah.
So there's definitely stuff to replace. I can see why people might push back on this a little bit, but I'm very, very high on Wingo, high on Moore, and they've got a number of guys that are going to competing for that other starting spot. Dalen McCutcheon is impressing a lot. With Moore, Moore's not really participating right now, and he's going to miss spring. So Dalen McCutcheon is going to get a ton of snaps, and I think he's the most polished guy that they brought in out of the freshmen. Jamie French, hearing about his explosiveness. Khalil Lockett catches everything. All three of those guys are living up to the high school evaluation.
Coach,
I love it. When I first read it this morning, I was like, "Ooh, it's improved." I thought about it. These receivers will have more time with Arch, right? So the connection will be there versus a guy coming in as a 1-year rental type. You build connection through the offseason, and then the season's here. But these guys have had 2 years with Arch. You got Moore, who's been there 3 years now, and then Wingo, he has another year with Arch. So I think the connection will be there. These guys are putting in work outside of practice and things like that. So I really feel like this room could improve and be better just because they have more time to gel with the quarterback himself, and everybody get familiar with each other. Arch know exactly where they're going to be on the timing, right? It won't be any like, I thought you was running this and you're going to break off it right here. Like, these guys will get so many reps together. I think that's the reason it improved. I think overall it improved just because of that.
Asked, what's the truth on Butler? Keep it 100. What the hell do you think we're doing? We always keep it 100. This is what's being said behind the scenes. Great hands, great speed, great route running. They want to keep him outside because that's where they like to put those guys like Worthy and Bond. That's the truth on him.
Butler's going to be a pro. I'll plug that documentary once again. Watch. Yeah. If you didn't know who Butler was, you would think he was an NFL player training at the local high school on the weekend like they do. So that's an important aspect. All right. Do you think so? If we had to force the starting lineup, it's going to be Wingo outside, Moore in the slot, and then 1-year rental transfer portal guy on the other outside.
Yeah, I think that's what it'll be. But Livingstone will play, Butler will play. At least 2 of those freshmen will play. I don't know. Probably all 3 of those guys are going to have to see the field because they're all highly rated. Or in McCutcheon's case, he's just ready.
Yeah, that's cool. What I hear about McCutcheon, I didn't think that was going to be the case. Out of that group of wide receivers, the 2 5-stars, you're hearing a ton about McCutcheon. So that's awesome news. All right, guys, before we keep going, let's hear from Andre the Lawyer.
This video is brought to you by Andre the Lawyer. If you're injured, trust the team that secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans with their injury case. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, and wrongful deaths. Don't let insurance tell you what your claim is worth. Hire Andre the Lawyer to fight for you. Principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait and call Andre the Lawyer today at 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. The contact information is in the description.
Thank you, LC. All right, tight end. We lose Gunnar Helm, Juan Davis, Amari Niblack. We trade him out for Jordan Washington and Spencer Shannon. Regressed. I agree.
Yeah.
I mean, this is pretty obvious. It doesn't take a ton of explanation here. But we have Jordan Washington, who we think is going to have a big year. But that's not knowing if he can actually block on top of it. And then behind it, there's just really no true depth there. So that's why it's a scary position that we kind of talked about earlier. We would like to pick up another guy. Is there anything you guys want to add on tight end? I feel like we hit a lot of it earlier.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Jordan, I think, is the 1-for-1 replacement for Gunnar, just at a different stage in his career. So, it's not going to be quite, he's not going to have Gunnar's understanding of the playbook and all that. But but I think he can be as good of a blocker. They got to replace that other tight end in 12 personnel, which they don't. They got to replace Juan Davis too. And Juan Davis, not the sexiest player of all time, but they need somebody that can do those 12 personnel guys, do those 12 personnel things, moving around the formation, pick up a lot of blocks, a lead blocker at times, kick out guy, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Coach, how do you feel? You did some tight end stuff. How do you feel, honestly, about the room? A little nervous?
A little bit. To the point Eric just mentioned about the 12 personnel, like who's the second tight end? You hope Spencer Shannon can take the step up, right, and become that guy. But who do you go find if you can't go find a junkyard dog like it's mentioned here? I think McIndoe from Oklahoma State did a great job. I know he recruited a ton of players that I coach, right? He's like trying to find – he doesn't care where they come from Montana to East Texas, wherever. He's just trying to find a dog who can go in and mix it up. That's all he wants. That's what he cares about first, other than receiving, right? So I feel like he can maybe find a guy in the portal who can do that and mix it up, or he'll get something out of the young guy like Amari Winston or somebody else on campus to be that guy. Like he's going to push him to get him there. And so I think that'll just be the thing, is depth and inexperience in the position room.
No. We'll see, tight end. We'll see. Offensive line, losing Kelvin Banks. Hey, it's always kind of a bummer when you have to read it out. Kelvin Banks, Hayden Connor, Jake Majors, Cameron Williams. We return Gooseby, Nadeau, Cole, Campbell, Baker, Robertson, Kojo, Brooks, Kibble. Still a regressed. Yeah, obviously, right? We just lost 4 starters that had been playing significant reps. Jake played more than anyone ever. Kelvin Banks came in late. He didn't even come in for the spring, which is crazy. And I still remember that stat from his first year. He faced like 4 first-round talents and gave like a sack. Just a freaky player. And then I wish we would have got Cam back, but we didn't. So ultimately the room has regressed, but look at the number of names. Like we couldn't even do a spring ball, 3-4 years ago, and now we can't do a spring ball, but for different reasons. So that's been a huge plus. So how do we feel about the room? I think we're going to have some questions going forward. We don't have the surety that we had this last year, of course, with all the older guys.
Yeah, but I think they can coalesce around an identity of better run blocking, drive blocking. They're going to run more gap schemes, like we've said, and I think that's going to make things easier for the offensive lineman, and I think it's going to make things easier for the running backs. So I think there's a path to this offensive line being better run blockers than the last one. That's not just my sentiment too. A lot of my times, my opinion is given to me. That's one of those opinions that's given to me. They think behind the scenes that they can be better, more consistent run blockers. Probably helps that they'll have a full bevy of running backs back there as well.
Yeah.
But I think if they become good run blockers, I'm not worried about anything else because there's going to be ways to buy time for Arch Manning to pass. Play action will buy him time. RPOs will make it easier for him. I'm not super worried about the offensive line, honestly. I think Cole Hudson's played a ton of football. He can play center. Connor Robertson sounds like he's really come on the last few months, even dating back to last year. Right tackle, like I mentioned here, is the number one issue. I would not be surprised if they went to the portal just for another experienced guy, a 1-year rental, while they figure out what's going on with Baker, get Kojo another year, and then also Brooks, who we've been talking about. So the future is bright at tackle. Although Trevor Gooseby, this might be his only year as being a full-time starter, sort of like Cam.
We're developing too well at some point.
Yeah, they need to slow down the development on some of these guys.
Yeah.
But yeah, offensive line, I'm not super worried about it just because, Arch is not a first-year. I mean, he's a first-year starter, but not a first-year player. I'd be terrified if Arch was a true freshman and having to start, but that's not the case. They just have a lot of support around them. You can make up for a lot of these questions in the aggregate. You can get the ball out of Arch's hands really quickly to buy time in the passing game. Again, if they run the ball, it's going to be a very explosive offense. It should be, if they run the ball, it's going to be Steve Sarkisian's most explosive offense. I know we're all waiting for that one that reminds us of one of his Alabama teams. We haven't gotten there yet. I think this will be the closest we get to that. Not saying it will be, but it's to me, it all comes down to identity. If they can get that run game going, I think everything else will fall into place.
I don't even know. It seems like an impossible ideal too. I don't know if you ever – is that Alabama team still the number one offense ever? So
were they better than the LSU 2019
yeah,
team?
Yeah,
they went 2019 and then 2020 Alabama.
Yeah, that's why we were like, no one's going to top LSU, and then statistically Bama did it the next year. So it's also that thing too is like, man, they had Smith, Najee. Their O-line room was
Wow.
solid.
Oh, yeah,
Mac was killing. It's like, man, trying to live up to that's going to be a little tricky anyways. But hey, if we can get a top 5 offense, I feel good. So here's what I think Eric made great points. So say we're not that great at pass blocking. Okay, well, Arch has a stupid fast release. So we can get that out. Play action, like Eric said, that'll hold him back, and he's quicker to get it out. Also, if he's not quicker to get it out, he can stand in the pocket longer than Quinn could. So, like, all of these problems that you could foresee with a less staunch pass blocking unit, Arch does have antidotes for, and we have schematic antidotes for. So that's important too. But I think the most important thing with a first-year starter in Arch is, like, man, make sure we can get those 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Make sure we can score at the red zone. Make it automatic in that regard, and then Arch is going to make people pay. Also, you're going to have running back, room back, and Arch can run. So it doesn't mean Arch has to run, but the defense has to respect his run.
Respect it, exactly. And people see a lot of people leaving, and they think, "Oh man, we're doomed. We're not the team, north of the Red River. We're not going to have issues on the offensive line." I believe the biggest thing is those guys just need reps together and communicate together, right? Everybody discounts Jake Majors, kind of unforgotten name sometimes because he started a lot of games, but his ability to communicate and get everybody lined up. If Cole Hudson, somebody take over for that spot and get everybody on the same page, I don't think we have a problem. Plus, you got Arch, right? He's a second communicator. He's going to make sure that we get into the right play, the right fit. He's going to count the box. He's going to count, oh, this is a strong side, weak side. Like, he's going to identify a lot. He's going to help the offensive line out himself. And I feel like with the communication in the helmet, Sark can also help, right? And so I think we'll be fine up front. Those guys just need reps together.
Well, and they're young. Like, the guys that we're replacing guys with are also future NFL players. Like, they need experience. But in the past, it would, like, if we lost, we'd have like 1 or 2 real good players by our draft. And then when we lost them, they were just lost that next year. We had to luckily maybe get a good NFL player again in 2 years. But we've seen that, like, look, we're replacing experienced NFL players with young NFL players. And that's different than what we've had in the past as well. So I think that's good. So on balance, I believe the offense will improve, largely due to Manning's versatility to threaten the defense with his arm or legs and ability to hit the deep ball. In addition, the offensive line could find an identity as a run-blocking unit to unlock the play-action passing game. I agree 100%.
That sums it up. That'll be my, every year I have, like, what's my biggest question mark going into the season? It'll be the run game. That'll be what I'm looking for all spring ball, August, and going into Columbus.
Yeah, and then we won't even get to do zero sum though with our in the spring game. Unfortunately, we're just gonna have to talk about this guy did good in practice, but remember, don't.
Right, I'll hear zero sum in practice. There'll be scrimmages. We'll have scrimmage reports, practice reports, that whole thing. Nothing changes on our end. We usually learn a lot more from practice than we do the scrimmage.
We do.
Yeah, you do.
But I'm not going to be able to obsessively watch the tape 30 times and develop theories.
No, I know. Yeah, we want to blow that one play out of proportion, whether it's good or bad. Remember last year, Wingo cooked Kobe Black, and everybody was like, "Oh my God, Kobe Black!" Oh man. Yeah. And we're like, dude, Kobe Black had a good spring. Don't worry about that. Wingo does that to everybody.
Yep. Curious about Michael Terry and his progress.
Yeah. So if you'll notice this article, I didn't name everybody on the offense. It's kind of like my expectations for the immediate future. I don't really have high expectations for Terry for this season. I don't know. I don't yet know even what position he's going to play. I don't have a good idea of the staff's plan to use him, his versatility. I don't think that he's going to be a major factor for this season. I think he needs to figure out what his long-term position is going to be. But I will check on him, and of course I'm going to monitor him this spring because he does have some ability as sort of a flex tight end, wide receiver. Like we've always likened him to little Jordan Humphrey. Yeah. Little Jordan Humphrey was one of my favorite players. I loved covering that kid. I remember going and watching Westlake versus South Lake Carroll. Ellinger on one side, little Jordan Humphrey on the other. That was a lot of fun. I think Terry does have a lot of that same ability and some of those same intangibles too. He's a good all-around football player. But I don't have that, is he going to play running back? Who's going to sit? He's going to play wide receiver. Who's going to sit if he's playing wide receiver? Really, the quickest path is the longest developmental path, which is tight end. Quickest path as far as depth chart is tight end, but that takes a little bit of a long time to learn to get physically up for it. He's got to put on a lot more weight. So I'll figure out what's going on with Terry, but I don't have high expectations for him this season.
What do you think his true position is, Coach?
Man, it's tough. I mean, you can put him running back on short yardage, maybe. You can flex him out. I don't know. He can play multiple positions. Like, he's just a true athlete. I think he's situational. Depending on down and distance, what you're trying to accomplish and how you want to attack the defense. If you want him in the backfield, motion him out, get him versus a linebacker, he'll kill a linebacker, right? If you want to put him in Wildcat, he can do that. So it just really depends. I think he's a situational player until he finds a home. You just kind of use him like a chess piece. How did they use Ramon Taylor early on, right? He was a receiver to run reverses. He was in the backfield catching sweep toss. I'm not saying he's Ramon Taylor, but you just got to find plays and packages for him until you find his home.
Were they comping him to Debo in usage during the recruiting pitch? I can't remember if that was him or somebody else, but they were talking about just like in the, hey, we can utilize you in these 7 ways.
Yeah, I don't know if I heard that. I don't know. Yeah, we just heard that he was going to play offensive playmaker is what we heard. That was, coming out of that official visit, that Sunday, I put in a prediction for him because I'm like, okay, they now I can tell that they truly want him. Still don't really know what the plan is, just offensive playmaker, but that was clear that they truly wanted him, and he bought into it, which was, obviously they have plans to get the ball in his hands. I don't think he signed up to just play tight end. That doesn't sound like something that would have excited him as much as he was, as excited as he was to come to Texas. And he had been committed for months. It was, it wasn't some tough decision for him. I'm just curious, does anybody see how it plays out? Because to me, when I saw him early as a recruit, I'm like, this is a defensive player when you look at his body type. But he wants the ball in his hands, so now it's going to get a little bit more interesting. I don't think they ever saw him as a running back or wide receiver, maybe some sort of hybrid of the two, which, Debo makes some sense. But Debo is a one of one. There are not a lot of Debos out there.
Yeah, it cracks me up when we comp people that are just uncompable.
Yeah.
So I think he's a tight end without offending anybody, but it's just like that's the fun world of it to me. I think I think his advantages shine in the tight end role. I think that's who he'd have advantages over.
He could be a plus size slot machine. Jordan Whittington was a slot machine. Little Jordan Humphrey was a slot machine. He could be like that. It's just Sark tends to like those guys that get more vertical. Like we saw DeAndre Moore had 7 touchdowns last year. Jordan Whittington had 2 in 2 seasons on twice as many catches. I think Sark wants these guys that can get deep, put the ball in the end zone. And I'm not sure he fits that, but he's clearly talented, and I'm curious to see how it plays out.
Hey, Eric, something you just said about you thought he could play defense. Keena's known for taking guys off offense and putting them on defense. He may be in the position meeting room or in a coach's meeting room like, hey, I can use this guy over here. He can cover. He can do a lot of things. So he's versatile enough to do it. I mean, maybe later in his career, I'm sure he wants to play offense, right? But
yeah, for now,
he goes to the NFL, be on defense, right? So hey,
defense was a non-starter. I'm not trying to tie this into what Michael Terry necessarily, but I hate it when I see a kid that finally realizes his position just at like his second school. It's like, right. Well, you would have stayed here if you would have stayed at running back, Jaquindon Jackson. What would have been the point to leave? That one always frustrates me. Oh yeah, I guess it's time for me to play that side of the ball. Well, that was your destiny in high school too, buddy.
Yeah. It's that second opinion where they're like, oh yeah, it's like, hey man, we told you. Do it. Well, also it's like these coaches, man, like they have a vested interest in getting you to the NFL as well. That looks good on them. So they're not just like, I get it. Some of the fears, like they're slotting me into position because it just helps them. Trust me, we want draft picks at Texas. So it's like they're trying to put you in a spot where they think they're not trying to screw you over here by saying you're defensive or not. But also catching touchdowns is pretty sweet. I get what do y'all think could have happened? What in the alternate universe of JT Sanders at edge? What do you think happens there? Because we see his testing numbers, and it wasn't very edge testing numbers. But what do you think that alternate reality of Sanders?
What made him a good tight end was would have made him a good edge, and it wouldn't have been strength or power or anything like that. It's just he's extremely flexible, very good change of direction. His movement skills. It's his movement skills. I wanted him at edge because at the time Texas had that edge room was there was nothing
terrifying,
nothing in it. There was nothing in it.
Yeah.
Everybody said, well, he playing tight end was justified. Well, we don't have the counterfactual of him playing edge, so we don't really know that for sure. Yeah. But they had no edges. That was the biggest weakness on defense that 2021 season. I think he could have got by with athleticism, but obviously, if he wasn't going to have the strength numbers to really put up against to go up against big offensive linemen. Yeah, but you kind of have to play these guys where their heart's in it. If their heart's not in it, well, everybody's like, hey, just spin this big safety down the linebacker. Well, if his heart's not in it, he's going to be a terrible linebacker because that's one position your heart definitely has to be in it.
Yeah. Where does that like positional ego come from? Is it just because there's more prestige positions? Like, I don't want to be a linebacker. I'm a safety. Like, where does that come from? Is that from getting paid in the NFL? Where is that like the elitism of the hierarchy of positions?
Man, I think it just hurts more to play linebacker.
You got to mix it up, right? Every single play, man. That's tough.
But you'll see it like, it's like, I want to be a wide receiver over a tight end. I want to be a corner over a safety. Is like, it's like, who cares, man? Like it's 1 of 11, man. Like we need you. But
I think it is financial incentive. And a lot of these guys are always told that they're the best at whatever they want to do. When they level up, there's that safety might move better than you. That's kind of the case right now. You got to be a total freak. Now, Jonah Williams, a lot of people thought, hey, maybe linebacker for him just because that's where his frame was going to go. Well, if his heart's not in linebacker, that's a non-starter. But then at the same time, he's also, one of those very, very rare freaks that can play safety at his size. So, but a lot of guys that aren't Jonah, that are built like Jonah, they should embrace linebacker.
Yeah,
that's true.
We got Overshown to do it. It just always cracks me up when it's like I'd rather be an average corner than an elite safety.
Hey, that was a fight with Overshown. There were a couple of Malcolm Roach was one that should have always embraced defensive tackle. He was always fighting that off. Yeah. And so when I saw his high school tape, he was playing tight end and linebacker and DN. I'm like, man, because you could tell his body type wanted to go to 290 plus pounds. I'm like, if this guy just embraced defensive tackle, he would be insane. But a lot of guys fight the destiny until they just don't really have a choice in the matter. Now, I was encouraged to see a picture of Lance Jackson the other day, looking very edgish. A lot of people said, he's going to grow into a D tackle because he's already 275 pounds. That's not always accurate. Just because a guy weighs a certain amount doesn't mean that they're just going to automatically get to 315. It's kind of like, it's kind of how mature is their build already? Is it already at a comfortable landing spot? Whereas, T'Vondre Sweat, when he weighs 275 pounds, we knew he was nowhere close to being done growing. Everybody's build is different. Lance Jackson, like I've said on this channel a couple times, Lance Jackson's dad is built like a 6'10" edge.
And his brother.
Yes.
Guy, and his brother's 6'6", 270, I think, 265 what it was at the combine. So he's going to be comfortable right at about 280 pounds, I bet.
So Jordan Washington on offense, who I'm most excited for. On defense, it's Lance Jackson, dude. I think he's going to be an absolute killer, dude.
Yeah.
Which freshman do you guys think could get some starts or substantial play time from game one?
Oh, that's a good one.
I don't see any freshmen starting. Good Lord. Who are they going to start over? Some future pro?
Yeah.
Edge, D tackle, not a chance. Linebacker, not a chance. Corner, not a chance. Safety, not a chance. Outside of Jonah, but we could say Jonah's going to play. They're going to play more dime, so that opens up another spot to get another freak athlete out there, which that seems to be calling Jonah's name. But they got a lot of DBs fighting for that too.
You won't get a start. You won't get a start from Justice Terry, but maybe you get some reps from Justice Terry in the pass rush.
Yeah, Justice Terry will play. They're going to have a lot more packages than ever before. They're going to use their packages more often than just on third down. Like dime isn't just going to be a change of pace on third down. I don't think they'll use it at times depending on the offense they're going against. Yeah, Justice Terry is going to play a lot on defense. Let me see.
One of the young receivers that plays a lot. I guess how much they rotate depends.
Well, if Sark allows them to.
Yeah, I could see McCutcheon playing. Malik Lockett always seemed like he's going to be a guy that could play early, and then French is really explosive. So I could see them there. And what do we mean by playing a lot? Playing in non-conference in September is a whole lot different than are they playing in November. But yeah, Jonah will play. Lance Jackson's going to play. Justice Terry's going to play. Those guys are all 5-stars, right? So you kind of expect that. But then, corners, you want a little bit more experience. You can't just say pin their ears back and go out there and play. They got to have a lot more discipline. It's a lot easier to play edge as a true freshman than it is to play.
Yeah, play go forward.
Or safety. Yeah. So on offense, none of the running backs. I don't think I didn't mention James Simon in that article earlier, but I think he would be ready. It's just there's a log jam in front of him. He's got to wait for that to thin out for him. But you don't really want you don't want young guys starting if you don't have to.
Yeah, that's also a mindset shift. because we were always looking for the savior, 4 or 5 years ago, and now it's like, man, I don't care, man. If I see this guy in year 3, that's good. He'll be one and done and go to the pros. It's still funny, like having to shake the old mindset of like, this is actually just a good team that's getting developed, and we can wait on guys.
Yeah, when it comes to recruiting and first year impacts, I'm looking more portal than high school.
Yeah.
True.
And then if we name portal likely, what are the top portal positions? Wide receiver, tight
end. I think they'd take another D tackle if a good one comes in. They like what they've got, but I think they'd take another one. We knew that we knew after that Sadir left that the portal number was 4. I think that's still the case. And then I could see an offensive lineman. I'm kind of speculating there, but just the lack of experience at right tackle is a little bit concerning. And you don't want any question marks. You got Arch Manning starting. You've got to make the most out of his likely 2 years starting. You got to do everything you can. If you got to go spend for a right tackle, if Baker and Kojo aren't ready, now they're going to have a lot of data points from the spring to get a good feel for whether or not Baker, Kojo, or potentially even Nick Brooks, the way we're hearing about him. But I could see an offensive lineman. So wide receiver, D tackle, tight end, and O-line would be my guess. Maybe a DB. It seems like they got enough at DB, but they always like experience there too.
Yeah. 88 is great. Pro day loading. Yeah, man.
Oh,
hopefully he keeps doing his thing, man. One of my favorite players too.
Hey, Barry, you need to let us know what what teams he's hearing from. I want that guy in Pittsburgh.
Dude, I'm seeing a lot of Golden to Cowboys, which as a Cowboys adjacent, I can't even call myself a fan. This team is so devastating. But just someone who's near to the Cowboys, I can't even get excited when they take Texas players because I'm like, great.
Yeah.
Not going to do much there. Hey, you're going to be on a rich team though, man. But
that'd be good for his long-term marketability living in Texas. Former Cowboy. Those guys get treated like kings in Dallas. And that would be a fun little life to be a retired Cowboys fan living in Castle Hills with the rest of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, I wanted Golden to go to the Texans. Speaking of a homecoming, he's from Houston.
Sure.
But they got Christian Clark, so I don't know. I don't follow the NFL enough to write up what NFL teams these guys should go to. But I know the Texans could use. I know C.J. Stroud needs. Well, now C.J. Stroud, they just need to draft like 7 offensive linemen apparently for the Texans. But I would have loved to see Golden in Houston. Golden's got a very high floor. All those first round Texas players, Banks, Barron, Golden, very high floor players.
Yeah, I was super impressed with Golden's disposition. It didn't feel like he was pouting when Bond was getting early stuff. I mean, he just like stayed quiet, and then no one thought he was going to be the fastest. No one even mentioned that, So I just like Golden's mindset, man. He just kind of kept quiet and improved it.
And hey, this makes sense.
That's a need.
Bo Davis, of course, and Terry Joseph are with the Saints now. And obviously, where is Barron Sorrell from? New Orleans. And there's another Sark connection. Peter Sermon is the linebacker coach, coached with Sark for a number of years at Washington. They're not going to lack any information on the type of character Barron has. We've always talked about his the mental eval on him was a 100 out of 100.
Yep.
So I could see Bo and TJ pushing for that guy in the NFL. And again, they're going to get him in a better fit than he was at Texas. He did what he had to at Texas, playing on that strong side. But yeah, is he talking about Puna? Who's Ford?
Jalen Ford.
Oh, Jalen Ford. Yeah, Puna just signed a contract. I saw that the other day. Okay. Yeah, Jalen. So yeah, there's that would be awesome. I'd love to see Barron in New Orleans.
I was wondering if the Saints were going to go for Jade too.
That is a crazy rabid fan base. I've got my very good friend lives down there, and his wife is from there, Destrahan, and she knows more about football. You always say, they know a lot about football, and then you kind of throw it in there for a girl.
Yeah.
She just her fantasy teams are locked and loaded. Oh man, she lives and dies with the Saints. Oh man. So now, so we want Golden in one of these Texas teams, and I want Barron in New Orleans, even though they've got a long rebuild ahead of them.
Yeah, I watched the mock drafts. I don't understand how you could ever know because one thing changes and all the variable set just completely disappears. So they're just kind of seem like they exist to get clicks. But occasionally when I see like Golden the Cowboys, I'm like, oh, interesting.
Yeah, mocks are just to get guys like us yapping.
Yeah. But I'm so protective of our player. Like I have no bias. Like I would pick the Cowboys for anything, but for our players, I'm like, nah, man. I want Texas players to go wherever they're best suited, where they can have the best career. No fanship involved.
Yeah, and then on the other side of it, I don't want the my Niners taking a guy just because they played at Texas. I wanted them to take Whittington. I thought he'd kill it in the slot over there for him.
True.
There's certain guys I wanted to take. Now they want to take Barron Sorrell. I'm all for it. But the NFL is it's so much luck and timing.
Dude.
Who drafts you is extreme, and that's a total crapshoot.
Yeah.
Just send Kelvin Banks to the Patriots. We need a left tackle bad. So there we go.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Wait, hold on a second. When did you become a Patriots fan? Because
like 95, long time ago.
95?
Yeah, old school.
Okay, pre-Brady, I'll allow it. But anything.
Somebody I'm close to played for that named Scooter McGrew. He played for the Niners too. But yeah.
You're getting a polygraph when I see you next. I'm going to ask you that question on a polygraph.
Like people that are like Chiefs fans that have no connection to Kansas City. I'm like, you can't do that, man. You have to be stuck with your team. Yeah. But if you're pre-Brady,
pre-Brady,
I'll permit it.
Hey, I'm not pre-Montana, but I was 1 year old when he got to San Francisco.
Yeah, all my teams are geographic, and man, I pay for it, dude. Like Luca, the Cowboys are like, we're getting killed right now.
Oh man, that's tough.
I put 100 on the Stars to win 900 to win the Stanley Cup. So we can root for that Dallas team together.
There we go. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Chat, appreciate you guys. And this was IT Live, brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Later, y'all.